Scott, would you care to, at this point or later, or you want to say something right now?
Let me say just a little bit now, because I want to congratulate John Conyers for the hard work that he's done over the years in the criminal justice and civil rights area, and also give a little bit of background of what happened on the crime bill, because if we're going to move forward, it's helpful to know a little bit about what happened before. As Chairman Conyers has indicated, we have to try to improve the situation going forward. And one of the problems we have in the criminal justice area is the difference between good policy and good politics. They're absolutely separate and apart, opposite directions when you talk about the issue of crime. The United States Senate passed the crime bill with no hearings. They brought the bill to the floor, started making speeches, amendment after amendment, and when it finally loaded it up with some really good political sound bites, not good policy, good politics, then they sent it over to us. And with the leadership of Chairman Conyers and a few others, we insisted on hearings, almost unheard of, and delayed the bill until January. Based on those hearings, we got some good policy into the crime bill. We didn't get the politics out, but we got some good policy in. We got the prevention package, Local Partnership Act, which will be discussed, drug courts, assault weapons, and a number of other things that worked. We watered down some of the things that were bad, but I think we had a much better, although I didn't support it in the end, it was a much better package than it started out. One of the things that happens when you pass things like three-time loser, death penalties, 13-year-olds as adults, abolish Pell Grants for prisoners, abolish parole, spend most of them more money on prisons than anything else. Although 99% of the crime is local and state and not federal, those kinds of initiatives give state legislators ideas as to what they ought to do. And shortly after the federal crime bill, or in the middle of the consideration, my state, Virginia, passed a three-time loser bill, and they're in the process next week of considering abolishing parole. A $1 billion package, $400 million a year, and just on a national perspective, that's about $90 million per congressional district, about $35 million per congressional district after you've built the prisons. And the promise, if it works, you might reduce crime 2%. Now, we know a lot of things that we can do with that kind of money that would put a much bigger dent in crime than 2%. And we need from this panel and working in the future, the data and the support for the kinds of initiatives that will make a significant decrease in crime. If we're going to put that kind of money into the problem, we ought to get a much better result. And I think the leadership that we've had from Congress suggesting that things like three-time loser and death penalties and 13-year-olds and adults and a lot of money in prisons, when we already have about 5 times higher incarceration rate than the international average, when you put that kind of money into it, I think it's clear that we're going in the wrong direction. So, Dr. Berry, I appreciate your leadership and help on this, and also several other members of the panel have been very helpful in trying to focus our attention on going in the right direction and leaving a little of the politics behind and doing the right thing. Thank you very much.